I have been a full-time trader now for almost a year, and trading has been hard for almost most of it. Initially, when I first started, I was using supply and demand. I tried using EMAs, I tried using signal groups, I tried using buy and sell signals, everything under the sun. I tried to make trading as easy and as simple as possible, but everything that I tried eventually led to countless losses until I came across supply and demand. Supply and demand was the game changer. It was very, very simple for me to comprehend. It's easy for me to explain it to people as well. So this was the game changer, and this was what made trading extremely easy and in fact very boring. But when you trade, you get to the point where things get boring, but that is when you start to make money consistently. So today we're going to talk about this strategy that allows me to win most of my trades 70% of the time. I've backed into this countless times. I've been using this now for a few months, and it's just been extremely Garo. So at first, when I started with supply and resistance, this is what most people use. This strategy is also very simple. In fact, let me tell you something. Every strategy works. Every strategy is used by people who are able to make countless amount of money from it, but it is not for everyone. So not every strategy works for every single person. But when I initially used support and resistance, I was losing a ton of money because you have this invalidation areas and you're just using buy stops and sell limits and buy stops and sell limits to kind of manage to trade until you're making money. But this ended up making me lose a lot of money. So when I do close, I'm closing profits small. When I'm losing a large amount of money because I just keep going into drawdown and more drawdown and hoping that the trade is going to go the other way. But with supply and demand, the first thing that changes is that now I'm a scalper. I'm someone who trades the 5-minute chart. So this means that I am in and out of most of my trades in a short amount of time. So supply and demand is simply aggressive buying and aggressive selling. This is when you sort of trade with the banks, as people like to say. Some people also call this strategy smart money concepts, and you're pretty much just waiting for the point where you see aggressive selling, which is usually done by banks, and big companies are trading with millions and billions of dollars. And when you see this point, you're waiting for price to go back to this initial point where there was aggressive selling. And usually, especially if it's a new supply or demand zone, then usually there will be some kind of selling or buying at that same point. So here's an example of a trade that I literally took yesterday. And when you have a demand zone, you can see that there was aggressive buying at this point, and eventually we're waiting for price to tap back into that zone. And when price tapped back into that zone, we're waiting for a simple break of candle. We entered the trade there, and the rest was pretty much history. So from this trade alone, you could have got a 1-to-1, 1-to-2, 1-to-3, and that was money to be made. And this trade literally happened in a few minutes. I didn't have to wait hours or days or keep managing it, and it was very simple and straightforward. And this is something that I actually teach to people in my Discord, which is actually free to access down below in the description. So one of the major reasons I use supply and demand out of most strategies out there is because I personally just prefer scalping. I prefer being in and out of my trades quickly. So if you're somebody who don't have the patience to actually stick through trades for a very long time, and you want to trade today, make your money today, then genuinely I would recommend this. But the good thing about this is, even if you are not, people do actually trade supply and demand, using the 4-hour chart or the 1 hour or even the daily. So you can also do that as well. It almost works for every single strategy. It will also work for Forex, it works for options, whatsoever instrument it is that you're trading. Supply and demand is still effective because there's always aggressive buying and aggressive selling. So whatsoever chart that you look at, you will see supply and demand setups there. Another thing is that I almost see setups every single day. Most of the time, 90% of the time, I am seeing setups every single day. I trade 4 times out of the 5 days in a week personally, but most of the time I will see several setups, and I just try to take the high quality setups. So obviously I can win as many trades as possible and take as little losses as possible. Now the second thing I've done to make this strategy extremely effective is by having a playbook. So after backtesting this strategy countless number of times, I now have a playbook, and a playbook is pretty much just having a strategy niche down in a way that suits you and having this noted down in a few bullet points of what you're looking for. So in my case, I have found that for the highest probability of me winning a trade, I need a break of candle, I need a break of structure. Most of the time, if I get those two, then the trade is likely to win, or the trade is at least likely to move in the direction that I want it to. And then it's up to you on where you want to close or what you want to do after you actually get into the trade. But most of the time, this trade actually does move in the direction you want it to. There's always some kind of reaction to supply and demand zones. It's either it sells. The part that makes people lose money is just usually being greedy. You're either holding for too long and the price does not move for as long as you want it to, so eventually reverses against you, or sometimes you're not even greedy enough, so that way you're not making as much money as you should, and you're just kind of taking little amounts, and then you're over trading at the end of the day, so sometimes you lose more than you need to. And now the key thing that I came across that significantly increased my win percentage is literally finding gaps. Now gaps is also known as order blocks, but this is just a zone where you see that and price has not come back to retest that zone, so there's a gap between the candle, and when price fills this gap and touches the zone immediately, there is usually a higher probability that this would go in the other direction. Unless it breaks through the zone, then in that case of course the trade is invalid and you don't need to take a buy or sell. But most of the time, if the zone does hold, then this is usually a good setup. And I find the gaps was the big change. When I learned about gaps and implemented this into the strategy, then it was just game over. So the best setups that I'm literally taking every single day would usually look like this. It would have a gap present, there will also be a break of structure present, and the moment I get a break of candle, then this is just an easy dub. I pretty much take this trade every single day, the same thing over and over and over again, and this is when trading became easy. Not having 10,000 lines on the charts, not having to pay attention to so many things, just keeping my charts clean, waiting for these simple things that I've listed down in my playbook, and after that literally the wins just continue to flow. Of course, I understand that there's no strategy that will win 100% of the time, but with the way the strategy has been set up, the way I've set up the strategy for me, it's all about winning as much as you can and losing as little as possible, and eventually the wins will continue to compound, and that is when you become a profitable trader. Now there's a video up on the screen, be sure to click on this video to see me actually backtest the strategy live so you can see exactly how it works.